Good day, everybody. This is Chris Gallagher of the Preacher's Pen. Thank you for tuning into our Preacher's Pen Bible study that we've been going throughout this year. We've been taking a chapter of the Bible each week and talking about it. And this week we've been talking about Mark chapter 5 and these three miracles, the man named Legion, the woman with the issue of blood. And today we're going to kind of sum up Mark chapter 5. We're going to talk about Jarius' daughter. I want to encourage you, if you haven't read about Jarius' daughter, to go back and do that. It's a fascinating account of a miracle of Jesus that actually begins in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 21. And we'll get there in just a few moments. But I want to encourage you, if you haven't found us yet on YouTube, maybe you're watching us on our website. We have these videos posted several different places. But you can find more out by going to preacherspen.org, which is our website, or youtube.com/, and the @ symbol, Preacher's Pen, PREACHERSPEN, like writing pen, Preacher's Pen. Or you can find us on Rumble, rumble.com/Preacher's Pen. We're also now posting these to Twitter as well. So if you're on Twitter, you can follow us at twitter.com/Preacher's Pen. And you're able to follow us as we go through these Bible classes and a lot of other information throughout the entire year. But let's get into Mark chapter 5 and let's talk about Jarius' daughter. Now, to understand this a little bit more, the background of this is Jesus has went to the other side of the sea, that being the Sea of Galilee, and he healed Legion of all his demons. And as he came back, it says this: when Jesus has crossed again into the boat to the other side, talking about coming back to where he was originally, it says he was beside the sea. One of the rulers of the synagogue, Jarius by name, came and seeing him, fell down at his feet and implored him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live." And Jesus went with him. The fascinating part of this is actually two things. Number one, the people around Jesus at this point are always following him because Jesus did a lot of miracles. He did a lot of healing specifically. He also taught them messages that were somebody coming with authority that we see at the end of Matthew chapter 7. You can go read about those at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, which is Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. It's an amazing passage. But here, what you have is the ruler of the synagogue. This is a Jewish ruler. This is somebody who's going to be a Jew. Of course, we've said that, but by nature, but they're going to be a leader in their community. And who do they go to? Well, Jarius goes to Jesus. Now, think about that for a moment. Many of the Jews rejected Jesus. Many of the Jewish rulers rejected Jesus. That's why they put him on the cross. But here you have a significant ruler in the Jewish community named Jarius, who's the ruler of the synagogue. This gathering of people, almost like a community center, or even more than that, an education center, comes to Jesus and wants to know more. So what does Jesus tell him? Well, first of all, we find out that Jesus very simply goes with him. He is going to take this journey. As they go, they encounter the woman with the issue of blood that we talked about yesterday. But here's where we pick up. As Jesus is talking to the woman who has the issue of blood, verse 35, it says, while he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house someone who said, "Your daughter is dead." He went to Jarius and said, "Your daughter's dead." It says, "Why trouble the teacher any further?" So as Jesus is talking about this woman with the issue of blood, apparently to the side of that is still Jarius. And Jarius hears the words, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any longer?" But it says in verse 36, and I'm reading from the English Standard Version, it says, "But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue," so back to Jarius, Jesus says, "Do not fear, only believe." Now, that's the phrase that Jesus says, "Do not fear, only believe." And it says, he allowed no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. So Jesus is going to heal this girl, encounters the woman with the issue of blood, finds out that the daughter is dead, but tells the dad, "Only believe." Only believe. It says they came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue. Now, remember, the daughter's dead. And it says that Jesus saw a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. Someone has died. This young girl has now died. And all of these people are saddened because Jesus, even though they sent for him, does this sound familiar? They sent for him, he didn't come right away because he got stopped by this woman with the issue of blood. So you always, at least for me, I have to think, what went through Jarius' mind if we could have been there a little bit sooner? If this woman wouldn't have stopped Jesus, if all these crowds weren't around, if he hadn't have gone to the other side of the sea. But what you see is this. He says to Jarius, that being Jesus, do not fear, only believe. Jesus knows what's coming. Jarius is still a part of this, still following Jesus. And it says, when they came to the house, they see all these people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he had entered, he said to them, why are you making a commotion and weeping? Once again, our lives through the life and through the eyes of Jesus is a whole different view. Before, we have discussed the prodigal son. When we look at life through heaven's eyes, we see things in a totally different view. We see them from a higher plane. I'm a big believer in the verse of Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 31. For those that wait on the Lord, he will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will walk and not faint. They will run and not be exhausted. I believe that in that language at the very beginning, he will mount up with wings and they will soar like eagles. We get an entirely different view when we're up above, don't we? We can see everything. We can see the purpose. We can see the place. We can see the travels. Jesus has an entirely different view. So when he walks into this house and he sees all these people weeping, notice what happens. He asks them, why are you doing this? Then furthers it by saying the child is not dead but only sleeping. Their response to Jesus was to laugh. Now notice this, verse 40 of Mark chapter 5, they laughed at him. Not at just Jarius, not at Peter and James and John, but they laughed at Jesus. Because Jesus said she's sleeping. This reminds me a little bit of John chapter 11. We know John chapter 11 because of verse 35, which says Jesus wept. But when Jesus went to get Lazarus, he showed up late. Well, according to them, we always have the sermon that is Jesus is always on time. God is always on time. But when we hear this, we put ourselves here. Can you imagine hearing that she's just sleeping? You would think, there's no way. Because you would check her pulse, you would check her heartbeat, you would make sure, right? Well, Jesus says she's sleeping. They laughed. He said, but he put all of them outside, and he took the child's father and mother and those that were with him, that's Peter, James, and John, and went into where the child was. Jesus kicked everybody out. That's really what happened. It says he put them outside. He told them, you got to leave. Get out of here. Why? Because sometimes what we have to do to create a really good environment, to get into the positive, is we have to get out the negative. And that's what Jesus does. All these people that are laughing at Jesus, they don't understand his purpose. They don't understand his life. So he has to take the negative and he's got to get it out. He's got to kick it out. English Standard Version says he put them out so that something good is going to come of this. Because notice what happens. It says taking the little girl by the hand. Okay, so he grabbed this girl, Talitha Kamai, that's what he says to her, which means, little girl, I say to you, arise. And immediately the girl got up. Now notice this, she got up and she began walking. She was 12 years old, the Bible tells us. She gets up from this slumber. She gets up and she starts walking. Not only does she just sit up, and he takes her up, but she gets up on her own and she starts walking. And it says they were immediately overcome with amazement. They could not believe what happened. They couldn't believe it because something happened right in front of them that hasn't happened to anybody else around them. But it does say this. It says in verse 43, and he strictly charged them that they should tell no one this, and he told them to give her something to eat. Jesus says, okay, it's just us here. This happened. I told you that she was sleeping. Nobody else believed me. She's now up from the dead. Don't tell anybody. But you might as well give her something to eat. I don't mean that in a flippant way. I mean that is the power of Jesus. Because they knew that she was dead. Those people that were laughing at Jesus knew that she was dead. And now Jesus has put them out. Now she's resurrected from the dead. She's healed. She's back. Jesus says, give her something to eat. But he says, don't tell anybody. Can you imagine what that would have been like to the people? Because people are nosy. and they want to get into everybody's business. Just imagine what it's like because their only answer is, you've got to talk to Jesus. That's their only answer. So when we look at this miracle of Jesus, I want you to notice a few things. Number one, notice the faith of Jarius. Jarius continued to follow Jesus even after it said that his daughter had died. I also want you to notice this. Jesus got rid of the negative. He got rid of those people that were being, annoying in the situation and didn't know the purpose. He got them out and focused on the purpose. And number two, the story that little girl and her parents are going to tell of, you got to talk to Jesus. See, sometimes people do not understand the change that we make because they themselves, they have to do something. They have to remain faithful. They have to get rid of the negative, and they have to talk to Jesus. When's the last time that you've truly looked at your life and seen that you need to be faithful, that you need to get rid of the negative, and that you need to realize what Jesus has done for you? Once again, if there's anything we can do to help you, check out our website, preacherspen.org. Look up and you'll see that contact page that's going to be there. And as you see that contact page, feel free to contact us. We'd be glad to send you some information, a Bible study, or even help you out. But I hope that you have a great day. Find us on YouTube, youtube.com/ and the @ preacherspen, rumble.com/preacherspen, facebook.com/preacherspen, twitter.com/preacherspen, instagram.com/preacherspen. You know where to find us, but check out our website, preacherspen.org. As always, you have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.